How you doing, guys? Professor EDC with another BLADE-OSOPHY Sunday. And okay, this setup is rather difficult for recording, so bear with me. Today we're going to talk about, is knife collecting a bottomless well? What do you guys think? Do you feel sometimes like there is no end to buying and collecting? Do you feel sometimes like there's no sense, no meaning in your collecting? Do you sometimes get tired of it all and just want to sell everything and just want to keep a couple that will age with you, and that it could be a heirloom piece? Well, I know very well what you're talking about. What you see here is most of my collection. I would say, I don't know, it's 70%, 75%, or perhaps even more, 80%. But this used to be more. There used to be around 200 pieces, 215 or 13 pieces. When I started off, or how it all started. So perhaps the time has come for you to trade, to sell, to keep on experiencing the world of knives, but in a different way. And for that, we have to talk about various things, because there are different factors that influence. And yes, I have a notebook here because it's such a broad subject. There are so many things that come into play when we talk about collecting, and this is not said by yours truly, but it is said by psychologists, by collectors, by art experts, by philosophers, by thinkers, and so even by spiritual masters. Because yes, it has to do with material things, it has to do with psychological things, has to do with emotional things, and it has to do with spiritual factors that intervene in this anxiety. What anxiety are you talking about, Professor? Well, there is an image that one of my teachers gave to many of us, that comes from other teachers along the line. And imagine this. Let me ask you a couple of questions, or rather situations. Perhaps the time has come to take the next step in your collecting, and that is to refine your knife collection. We may start off like a pyramid, down in the bottom. But sometimes as we walk this path, and if we have a north, if we are following something, we may mature along the path. And if we mature along the path, there might be a tendency to go up the ladder of that pyramid. And then going back to what one of my masters, what one of my teachers has spoken about. And you can take this example from whatever point of view you want, or like from different traditions, spiritual traditions, psychological traditions. You would be able to see this in many traditions. do you feel an insatiable, like an insatiable thirst? For example, like being was it a drift away in the ocean? Imagine you're that Tom Hanks, that drift away in the ocean, and you feel this insatiable and corroding thirst, and the only water that you can drink is the water of the ocean. But since it's so salty, as you drink, the only thing that happens is you get more thirst. You become more thirsty. The more you drink, the more thirst you have. So, what I'm getting at here is I have felt that thirst. I still feel it, as you can see. But something has happened along the way. Yes, perhaps this all started unconsciously, just as I don't know, a psychological necessity, some type of anxiety that I hadn't noticed that became kind of a thing for collecting, for knife collecting. But again, what you see here is much less than what I used to have. Now I can say that I have sold and traded more than half of the collection that I used to have. The thing is, I noticed that I wanted to learn more about knives. I was, because there is a positive, there might be positive, neutral, and negative sides to this whole story, to our own story. And so, I also noticed the positive of it and the joy. Now let's be very specific and careful about words. I am mentioning joy, not happiness. True happiness, that's a broader term and meaning, but just enjoyment of this collecting, of using these tools. So I set on a path of blades, as I call it, to get to know more about these wonderful tools. No, they're not toys. They're not pieces of art. They're tools. Some of them are better built, have more design and creativity than others. But according to art parameters, this cannot be called art. But I'm not going to get into that right now. The thing is, I thought about the old stories of Arthur and the Round Table, the stories of Camelot, of course, the Arthurian legends, and of course the legends of other warriors, Rodrigo Diaz de Vival, El Cid and his swords, and the samurai, and these wonderful, wonderful legends of how these warriors searched for the perfect sword, the perfect blade. And that inspired me. That inspired me to make this path a path of blades, to find, and especially since I worked for 10 years up in the mountains here, in different communities, and I use these tools not very often, but every day. And so that's how this channel and my search evolved. But one of the things that I had to, and that I'm having to learn continuously, is can I sit with that thirst and not let it control me? Can I sit with that unsatiable thirst? Mosquito. And the truth is, it's very hard. It's just so difficult to sit with that thirst. But then again, can we allow that emptiness to be, or that well to be? When I mentioned that is knife collecting and what did I say? Let me go look. A bottomless well. Is it a bottomless well? Yes, it is, if we allow it to be. So we gotta ask the next question. We gotta be masters of our desires and not slaves of our desires. That's why we gotta transition from one place to the other. But that's gotta be a conscious transition. It cannot be an unconscious transition. Now this, I know, I'm speaking in a language that, like I've been told many a time, this is not going to be understood by many people. It doesn't matter. Whoever listens to this, whoever understands it, I understand about that anxiety. I understand about this sometimes obsession of collecting. I understand, I have learned, because I'm studying about it. I'm not only studying about blades, about pucos, about the use of these wonderful tools in different ambiances, but I'm learning about myself. I'm learning about how difficult it is for me to let go of something that I have acquired with tremendous work, with not only hard work and hard-earned money, but the difficulty of getting what you see on the table, getting these wonderful tools down here to Mexico. And the grasping, when having to, when the time arrives, when the time comes to trade something, to sell something, to just let go, it's so difficult. Even though many of these are not being used. It's just not possible with so many. And that's one of the things that exasperates me, because I am a user. First of all, most important of all, I'm a user. And as a user, I started collecting. I became an enthusiast, and from there, a collector. But am I going to keep on adding to the list as I did before and arriving to 200 and something folders and knives? No. I do want to keep on experiencing and using what you see on the table. And for that, I know that I have to reduce my collection. That is something that it has to be done, whether I like it or not. But you see, there is a trick to it. You gotta have a north. You gotta have an objective. You gotta have a direction, a meaning where you want to go to. Otherwise, as I felt that I was just gathering, what's the word? Just gathering and gathering, and I'm trying to think of the word. Anyways, I'm going to continue and see. And what do I want so much? Sooner or later, I'm gonna leave this plane. I'm gonna die. That's something inevitable. What am I going to do with all of this? The people around me, most of the people around me, are not going to understand my love for all of these things. And they're just going to sell it in a cheap, for cheap prices in a swap meet or something like that. Or just give away or whatever. They're just going to age in some basement, or I don't know, if I'm lucky. So is that how I want my collection to end? I don't think so. Like I said, I do want to have a couple of pieces. I don't know how many, but what you see here is just too many. So I might want to have 3, 4 different knives, 3, 4 different folders, 3, 4 different slip joints, and that's it. If we're talking about 4 of each, that would be 12. And I like number 13, so perhaps one more. 13 blades. That's more than enough for a lifetime. And perhaps even if I get to that number, I will reduce that to perhaps 3. 1 knife, 1 folder, 1 slip joint. That's it. And perhaps those will be my heirloom pieces. And also, perhaps the thirst will be sedated. Perhaps the thirst will end. Because at the same time, I'm processing all of this information throughout the years. Perhaps it'll all end in time before my time comes. And perhaps, I don't know, I might just end with 1, 2, let's say 3. That's an extra. This one's a good one. And 4 blades in my time. Perhaps. Great 4. Fantastic 4. Don't you think? So, we do go through anxiety, we do go through many feelings, the hunt and blah, 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 whatever. But I believe that as human beings, we can polish ourselves, like I have talked about so many times, about polishing our tastes, about educating our tastes. And so if we can educate our tastes, then we can educate ourselves, right? And not only that, but we can refine ourselves, and we can refine our collections. Isn't that something interesting? I think so. At least that's the path that I'm walking on. And what we see in the media, what we see out there, in many cases, they are just traps to keep on buying. They are doing their job, right? They're interesting us in different things. But that satisfaction, we're going to find not out here. We're going to find it inside. We're going to find it if we have a North Star that we follow. And perhaps one day we will become satisfied with what we have. And especially if what we have is just what we need, no more than just what we need. Because the rest is just gonna sit there gathering dust. Even though I try to use all of them, I can test one thing at a time, one folder per week, one slip joint per week, one knife per week. That's all I can do to really get the experience, because one day is not enough. So at least 1 week, and then roll into the other model and keep on rotating. So, but the most important thing here is perhaps at some point, because that's what I'm looking for, I'll be satisfied with just enough, with just what I need, with just what I want. And not only that, but what I want will be guided and will be controlled by me, and I won't be a slave of the media, of the industry, but I'll be guided and master of my own wishes, my own desires, and my own decisions. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Professor EDC out.